The moment my son was born, my life changed in ways I could never have anticipated. I had imagined this day for years, picturing it as a culmination of all the hope, struggle, and longing that defined my journey to fatherhood. But when the time finally came, I didn't feel the overwhelming joy I had expected. Instead, I was consumed by a deep, unsettling confusion. The room was filled with the sounds of celebration, doctors and nurses congratulating us, my wife Rachel's exhausted but triumphant smile, but I felt detached as though I were watching the scene from a distance. Something didn't feel right, and I couldn't understand why. For 5 years, Rachel and I had tried to conceive. It had been a grueling, emotional roller coaster. We went through countless doctor's appointments, tests, and procedures, each one promising hope but delivering only disappointment. Every time we were told that everything looked normal, that there was no medical reason we couldn't have a child, it felt like a cruel joke. We were left with an ache that never went away, a longing that seemed to grow stronger with each passing month. I wanted to be a father more than anything, but it felt like the universe was conspiring against us. During one particularly low point, Rachel brought up the idea of using a sperm donor. I remember the moment vividly. We were sitting in our living room, the weight of our struggles pressing down on us. When she suggested it, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The idea of another man's DNA being part of our child felt like a betrayal, not just of me, but of the bond we shared. I couldn't imagine raising a child who wasn't genetically mine. It wasn't just about biology. It was about identity, about the connection I had always imagined having with my child. I told Rachel I couldn't do it, and she didn't bring it up again. Then, against all odds, Rachel got pregnant. It was a miracle, or so I thought. But as the pregnancy progressed, I began to feel a growing sense of unease. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but something felt off. When our son was born, I tried to push those feelings aside, telling myself that I was just overwhelmed, that it would take time to adjust to fatherhood. But as the weeks went by, the unease only grew stronger. I started noticing things, little details that seemed out of place. Our son had Rachel's eyes, but there was something else in his features that I couldn't quite place. And then it hit me. He looked like Ethan, Rachel's ex-husband who had passed away years ago. The resemblance was uncanny, and it sent a chill down my spine. At first, I tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but the more I looked at my son, the more I saw Ethan in him. A seed of suspicion took root in my mind, and I couldn't shake it. I began to obsess over the possibility that Rachel had used Ethan's sperm to conceive. It seemed impossible, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Ethan had died suddenly, and Rachel had been devastated by his loss. What if she had preserved his sperm? What if she had used it without telling me? The thought was unbearable, but I couldn't ignore it. I started searching for answers, digging through our belongings, looking for any clue that might confirm or deny my suspicions. It was in the basement that I found the truth. Hidden in a box of old papers, I discovered a collection of documents that shattered my world. There were medical records, consent forms, and a contract with a fertility clinic. The dates matched the timeline of Rachel's pregnancy. The documents confirmed what I had feared. Rachel had used Ethan's preserved sperm to conceive our son. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My hands trembled as I read the words over and over, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. How could she have done this? How could she have lied to me in such a profound way? The emotions that washed over me were overwhelming. Betrayal, anger, confusion, and a deep, aching sadness. I had trusted Rachel completely, and now that trust felt like it had been obliterated. The child I had been nurturing, the child I had loved and cared for, wasn't entirely mine. The realization was devastating. I felt violated, not just as a husband, but as a father. The foundations of my family had been built on a lie, and I didn't know how to move forward. The day of my son's first birthday arrived, and I approached it with a mixture of dread and determination. The house was filled with family and friends, all there to celebrate the milestone, but I could barely focus on the festivities. My mind was racing, my heart heavy with the weight of what I knew. I couldn't keep silent any longer. As the party wound down, I confronted Rachel. I told her what I had found, my voice shaking with emotion. The room fell silent, as our guests realized what was happening. Shock and confusion rippled through the crowd, but I couldn't stop. I had to get it all out. Rachel's response was a mix of defiance and desperation. She admitted to using Ethan's sperm, but claimed she had done it out of necessity. She said she had been afraid that I would never accept a donor, that I would reject the idea of raising a child who wasn't biologically mine. Her words only deepened my sense of betrayal. She had made a decision that affected both of us, that affected our child, without ever giving me the chance to be part of it. I felt like my entire life had been built on a lie. In the days that followed, I filed for divorce. I couldn't stay in a marriage that had been founded on such a profound deception. The legal process was grueling, but I was determined to seek justice. I pursued a case for paternity fraud, and after months of court proceedings, the legal system recognized the truth. I was able to sever my legal ties to the child and finalize the divorce. It was a bittersweet victory. On one hand, I felt a sense of closure, but on the other, I was left with a profound sense of loss. In the quiet moments that followed, I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened. I had lost not just a partner, but the family I had dreamed of. The journey ahead felt uncertain and daunting, but I knew I had to move forward. My heart still ached for the love I had lost, but I also recognized the importance of rebuilding my life. I had learned hard lessons about trust, about the complexities of family, and about the resilience of the human spirit. As I took my first steps into this new chapter, I vowed to carry those lessons with me, to find a way to heal and to create a life that was true to who I was.